For just about every one of us, money is essential. But does having more money will make you happier? Or does it mean more problems in some circumstances? So what we do know for sure is that money determines the states of our mental well-being. In addition, research has shown that mental health also affects our productivity, which in return could jeopardize our financial health in the long run. So the question is, can money buy happiness? Join us as we take a closer look at the financial stress and mental well-being of Malaysian working adults and the role of employers in ensuring happiness and productivity at workplace. I'm Muhammad Mafrukin Mohtar, and this is The Insights.
Let's go.
AKPK Financial Education and Wellbeing Research Centre, FEWRC, surveyed more than 3,000 Malaysian working adults to gain insights into their financial stress and mental well-being. So the data were collected before and during the first movement control order, and this is what we found. Financial stress among Malaysian working adults increased by 35% since the pandemic began in 2020. As expected, those with the least amount of savings were the most vulnerable groups. Nearly half, at 41%, reported that financial stress affected their mental health, increasing the risk of life-threatening illnesses if the condition persists. Even work productivity was also affected, where more than half, at 65%, who experienced financial stress admitted that their job performance was also affected as a result. For example, ineffective communication and unstable emotion disrupt overall performance, which eventually will affect the organization's bottom line. We also learned that many Malaysian working adults need a very good support system to manage their stress. As high as 77% of our respondents said that they will not be able to handle their stress on their own and therefore required assistance. With us today, we have special guests who are actually very deeply, about the mental health and the state of mental well-being of Malaysian. We have Dr. Hazli Zakaria, founder of Alaminda Healthcare, and also clinical director of Alaminda Specialist Clinic. And we have also in the studio Wahmed Parish Ilsali bin Abdul Hamid, a freelance human resource consultant. Thank you very much for joining and welcome to The Insights. How are you, Doctor? How are you, Mr. Parish?
Very good, Alhamdulillah. Thank you.
No stress? Okay. But today we will talk about stress, financial stress, and of course, it's actually a very important topic to be discussed. I would like to start with, just now we revealed some of the key findings of the research that we have conducted. That was back in 2020. But now, after 3 years, we have conducted that research on financial stress. So what happened now, Dr. Hazli? Maybe as practitioners or specialists in mental well-being and mental health, maybe you could share some landscape of mental well-being of Malaysian?
That's a very good question, Afikin. You know that is cannot do justice with the time that we have, right?
Yes.
I'll give the simple answer first. Yes. But I want to say something about stress. Not all stress are bad.
Mm-hmm.
There are good stress. Of course, there are bad stress, right? Again, in order for us to function fully, we need a bit of stress to optimize our functioning. But when it's too much, then the data that we have during the pandemic, MCO, the stress increased. And you said about the saving is the protective during the MCO for people regarding their financial stress. Mm-hmm. What happened to their saving now? Depleted, right? Mm-hmm. So we're expecting the stress level will be higher. So the answer to the question will be increased. But again, different people will respond or react differently because they have a different kind of support system, different personality or the way of cope. So we have to look from the individual perspective as well. But at the same time, we also notice people like you, I'm sure the pandemic made you a better person. So we call it the term post-traumatic growth. This is to show that after being trapped or being in the crisis, some people they can come out better. However, that's a proportion of that group not that big. So to answer that question, once again, yes, meaning that we need to figure out how are we going to help the people who facing more stressful personal from their personal life and also in their working environment, especially because remember the study is on working
Malaysian
working around. So we know that that is important. Some more we spend quite a lot of our time in workplace.
Yes.
So how can we now to help them who probably facing more stressful, not just that, some of them may develop mental health issues or having certain condition that need to be further assessed. So we have to focus, in fact, we have to invest to deal with the one who are stressful, but also to prevent people who are at risk and also to maintain people who are ready as yourself, who are very strong and mentally fit. I'm sure financially fit as well.
Inshallah. Thank you very much, Dr. You mentioned about a few keywords. You mentioned about the role of employers. You mentioned about the programs and you
support system.
and the support system. And you also mentioned about, yes, our research actually looking into the financial stress among the Malaysian working adults. And with that, I would like to bring another question to Mr. Paris, who actually have vast amount of experience in HR. Previously, HR practitioner, and now is a freelance consultant in the HR matters. So I would like to bring what have Dr. Azli mentioned just now. When we look at the issues of employees with regard to financial stress, maybe perhaps you would like to share any insights or stories with regard to that area?
Yeah, sure. I think what Dr. Azli has mentioned is a macro aspect of the issues that people are having and working Malaysian adults are facing. I think it's not, it's already a norm now that we know that people suffered a lot through COVID and now it's post-COVID era. Yeah. So looking at that, I do not deny that financial stress has a major impact on employees' mental health and work performance. However, there are also other factors that we need to look into, right? Now, there are many actually if you really cut and slice it, but I just focus on these three major aspects. These three major aspects. One is the work environment. We talk about work environment. Dr. Azli was saying, as Dr. Azli also said, majority of our time as an average work person, I cannot say workman with the ladies will be, feel insulted. A work person is at the office, right? So when it is important to have, usually we have two families, family at home and family in the office, two families, yeah? So the family at home and the family in the office has to be healthy because otherwise it has effect. Either way it has effect. It has to be healthy at home, healthy in the office, vice versa. It has to be healthy. So for instance, if you have a difficult boss, I wouldn't use the word leader here because a leader is more able to adapt and I use the word boss, difficult boss. A boss that always when you meet the boss, you ask, when can I get it done? And the boss say, I want it yesterday. And then or do it my way or hit the highway. So continuous so-called bombardments of these things add stress to the employee. So the employee will feel very hectic, stress, fatigue, and then so forth and so forth. It adds on. Also, if you're working with colleagues, peers, who happen to be wanting to outshine the employee, backstabbing, all this rumor mongering, or rather this as Malays call it bawang and all that, that also in another way adds stress besides the financial aspect. Yeah? And even if when you look at subordinates, where I had a fair share of all, good and not so good bosses, good and not so good peers, and good and not so good subordinates. They may say the same of me lah. Huh? So it's all it's a cycle. Yeah, it's a cycle. So whatever it is, when you have subordinates that are difficult or that are challenging to manage, it's also very stressful. Yeah, because you have the people, the subordinates that have a good attitude, you are there. The one that are not so good attitude, you have an issue. The one that's not so good in work and bad attitude, oh, it's a big problem. It's a big issue, So you can't just, in Malaysian laws, you can't just dismiss somebody just like that, You got to go through the normal process of disciplinary, procedures, and it takes a while before you can terminate or dismiss somebody. Yeah, you got to build the case. So all in all, when you look at all these things, this is where we talk about the work environment. That's one aspect. The other aspect is peer pressure. Peer pressure meaning you go out with your friends, especially the younger generation. So, I mean, if you want to do it when you're older, it's okay. But the younger generation usually they want to be, let's say, in vogue. You want to have the latest gadgets, the latest clothing, the latest cars, So with a certain limited income, you may not be able to spend that much, but you want to keep up with the lifestyle of the rich and famous. And then somehow or other, I would like to borrow again the words of Dr. Aziz, depleted money, depleted savings, and in the end, it's going to be stressful. Yeah, so that is another aspects of it. And if it's not managed properly, it can shake an individual. Now, thirdly, domestic issues. Never underestimate domestic issues, because I remember a person sharing this with me. Domestic issues are amongst the worst issue anybody can go through, because it's at home. If you have continuous arguments or quarrels with your spouse, and you coupled with difficult children or child to manage, and some of us are not that lucky, you might have a special child to take care of, and that's very challenging as well. So all in all, when they are mixed together, it can throw off a person's center of gravity may be affected. Yeah, and when that happens, the person will lose himself or herself, and this can be very devastating.
I want to say something. Thank you,
Please, Doctor.
Dr. Parish, for bring up the idea that we cannot separate from office and home.
Yes.
We always say, oh, don't bring everything in the office to home. And then how are you going to focus if you receive a phone call saying that your maid ran away?
Yeah.
Can you still focus in your work?
It's not easy.
And then your boss said, no, I used to have the same problem, but I still manage. That's you. But we always use ourselves as a reference point to say that why can't you do the same? Without realize everybody is not the same.
Correct.
I mean, yes, I totally agree with that. And I would like to emphasize on the three main items that you mentioned, the work environment, the peer pressure, as well as the domestic issues. I think with these three, I can relate the last two, the peer pressure and also the domestic violence also can be related to the financial position. Like for example, if we are actually having a peer pressure of, buying luxury cars and whatnot, so we're being pressured and we actually go into that, we are not financially stable, and also domestic issue. It could be a reason of financial instability at the family institution that could bring that domestic issue. So I think more or less what you mentioned, those issues by the employees more or less could also be directed to the cause of the financial stress as well. Yes. So okay, it's very interesting, but we need to take a break. We will go into a next round, and but please take a break, and we will be right back after this.
Let's go. Let's go.
Welcome back to the Insights, brought to you by AKPK Financial Education and Wellbeing Research Center, FEWRC. And today we were talking about financial well-being and mental well-being. So we had a very interesting first round discussing about the issues about the level of mental health and also issues of the employees in the workplace, because now we are focusing on the Malaysian working adults. I would like to take some of the point of discussion we talked just now, peer pressure. And we just done the research on consumer behavior, and we found that 3 out of 10 Malaysian working adults are actually being categorized as compulsive online spender. You know, so I mean, it's quite high, 3 out of 10, because if you look at the 10 people, 3 out of them was actually compulsive buying spender. But I would like to ask Dr. Hazli about what will be the, the spending habit will have an impact towards the mental health. Sometimes it's a little chicken and egg situation. So what's your view, Dr. Hazli?
Which one comes first, right?
Which one comes first?
Yeah. Which influence the other one?
Yes.
So we always think that when we buy something, we think about it rationally, without realize that sometimes the buying actually emotionally influence. Yeah? Some more, when the peer pressure come in, you want to buy the car better than your colleague, right? And then when we try to to compete without we realize. So sometimes we use that activity, the spending, as a way of coping when we emotionally not good, when we're feeling negative. That activity can bring out our emotion, feeling good about ourselves. And then problems start when it become maladaptive. It's no longer the coping that bring the benefit at the end, rather than it become some kind of addiction. We need to buy more and more and more. Some more, it become compulsive, meaning that you are no longer able to control that. Somewhere during the pandemic, they got nothing to do. Say, stressful, anxious, do not know what's going to be for the future. Then the way they do that is try to make themselves better by spending. Having said that, when we are emotionally not well, we tend to spend more. And then we know also when we have a good habit of spending, despite we are in the crisis, we still follow our habit. That is important for us to equip ourselves with a good financial behavior. The same thing that we have to tell ourselves also, we know how to look after our mental health. We have to know how to deal when we are overly stressful.
Right.
So we have to know how to cope better, right? But more important, we have to know when we are already mentally compromised or stress is more than what is supposed to. The same thing also, we have to know that our financial stress is already over what we are supposed to face. And that, at the time when the pandemic, the time of crisis, basically, when we know who we are, what our needs, we don't have to be pressured by the environment, by the surrounding. In order to know who we are, what our need, what our character, what our personality, when we are already past the line that makes us no longer adaptive. That's what everybody has to be able to have. The skill that everybody should have. Then can we helping our employee to have the skill? That's what the question that we have to ask ourselves. Since a lot of our employee or our family members also having difficulties to control their spending, and also did not realize they are more than stressed without doing anything about it. So the whole idea, it comes back to knowledge, the information, the literacy. So we have to look at the level of how good our level of financial literacy, mental health literacy among Malaysian, and particularly among the working group.
So, Dr. You mentioned that the financial literacy is important for us to improve financial behavior.
Yes.
And at the end of the day, the financial behavior could be able to allow us, for example, do savings, so that our coping ability will be increased during
Yeah.
the financial stress.
That's what the pandemic taught us. We have to prepare in case we have another pandemic. What we learn, we have to have a better skill in ensure that our ability to cope when there are crises, our well-being, how to look after our well-being financially, mentally, right? So our habit, how can we, what are the strategy that we have to do when we are facing crisis in our financial aspect? What happened in we have a domestic issue, as you mentioned? Do we know how to reach out? Until now, a lot of us so afraid to reach out, being afraid of being labeled. The stigma is still high, not just in mental health arena, also in financial health as well. That's why people are afraid to come to AKPK. But of course, they're afraid more to come to see me than to see you.
Okay, Doctor, it's very interesting. You know, when we talk about these employees, right? I actually curious about, you know, whether employers who have financial stress come forward to see their employers, maybe HR personnel or counselors maybe at the workplace, and talk about their financial stress. Because in our society, talking about financial is like a taboo. People not actually forthcoming to say about their issues on the financial because they like feel shame about the financial position and whatnot. So with that, is there any, based on your experience as a HR practitioner those days, were there any cases that you found, you know, your employees come forward and talk about they have financial problem and whatnot? So and how those employees who have financial stress that you can see affect their job performance. So what's your view?
Right. I think you rightly say it's still a taboo during this current era for employees to share their financial issues, let alone about their well-being or mental, you know, health. Yeah. So my concern is if there's a coupling effect. You have a mental health issues or wellness. I will use the word wellness. Yeah, wellness issues, and you are financially, affected. Yeah. So it's going to be a double whammy. Yeah. So what I think employers should do, I'm talking on the employer's perspective now, is to at least provide channels, provide avenues for employees to bring this out. Yeah, it is deemed to be confidential. So we say, look, it is a confidential matter. HR has to be custodians of confidential matters. That means it's only HR personnel and the employee, or we get a third party like AKPK to come in, or for well-being, we get experts, what do you call it, well-being, so-called professional trained counselors to come in, and then let it be between the two. So even HR may not be a party to know what exactly was discussed. You see, if they want to discuss any issues, personal issues, domestic issues, you know, etc., etc. Because why this is important? If the avenue is not there, they don't know where to reach out. Yeah, I cannot reach out to my parents because they have enough issues. My brothers and sisters, all they have their commitments. My friends are also, earning, enough for themselves. So who am I going to ask help from? So at least it is an avenue. Now, having said that, if there's an avenue and the employees do not want to use it, it's their choice. They cannot come back and tell the employers, look, what do you call it? I have this problem. You're not helping me out.
But make sure that the employer have to ensure that the confidentiality has been protected.
Yes.
Because sometimes it's being perceived, being shared,
Yes.
and then not being protected. That could be the reason the employee does not want to
go
come forward to share.
Yes.
It's because process of membawang itu,
Betul.
and then the sharing happens in any unit, in any department. So that's the perception that we need to look after.
Right.
So the perception of the employee that they are going to be protected in terms of the information that they share. Some more financial issues considered as a personal matter.
It is.
It's
Yes.
not part of the work, but that's wrong because how can we differentiate? How can we stop from thinking about financial issue at work if that is really something that triggering them at this moment?
Yes.
So employers, in particular HR, should look into opening rooms to discuss about
Yes.
these personal issues
Yes.
like financial stress and whatnot.
Yes, if I may add in, I think HR practitioners has to be reminded again and again the importance of confidentiality. You know, this thing about, hey, I tell you, don't tell anyone. Then next person do the same. It's a chain reaction. No? Then it becomes a public story. And in the end, they look at HR and say, hey, how come? It's supposed to be only HR and me to know this issue. So it is something that HR should have it in their DNA and say, look, this is confidential. It has not got to be shared with anybody out of this room or out of this between these two parties. Yeah, that's point number one. Now, point number two, there's a line that we need to be careful here because it is personal. However, if the employee does not pay his car for some months or the house some months, the banks will start to call HR. You see, and HR will happen to know this person, can you please, is he still working in the office? Then we ask why. Oh, he's not. Although they not say much, but we roughly know because they will call to find out because there are no payments, and they tried calling, no news, no clues whatsoever. So they call the office. That's the safest bet that the banks have. So and they do that. Now, just to share with you one example of an employee that I used to work in an organization. I can't share where, then it's not going to be good, yeah. But I happen to know this because of my networking with one of my ex-colleagues. This person is probably, his role is just an executive, meaning an executive level, just below assistant manager for Malaysian context, yeah, executive level, earning probably about 3,000 to 4,000 a month, basic salary. Apparently, he's got a wife and 2 children, and he's trying to make ends meet and maybe have a bit of extra for some so-called extras to enjoy life, that kind of thing. Yeah. Now, he moonlights. That means he works in the office. Weekends he does gardening. He does a few other things, etc. and all that. Now, however, that also was not sufficient. Imagine working already Mondays to Fridays, sometimes overtime, Saturday, Sunday working. So he resorted to loan sharks. So you just imagine, thank God he was diligently servicing the loans of the loan sharks, so they did not disturb him or his family. Imagine if he hadn't. If he hadn't, the loan shark will be after him, the family will be affected. It's going to be damaging, you see? And the company will also be affected. So 3 parties, exactly, dominoes effect. And then he's living in a dangerous zone. So we as HR practitioners, we are very careful with this because we don't want the staff to be going through or employees to go through this kind of thing. So where we can help, we'll help. But companies have policies. Yeah, we can somehow put an exception case, but there again, it becomes a precedent. So there's a lot of things that we need to look into. But wherever we can help in HR, we will try to help to make sure that the staff does not go into this kind of so-called unnecessary issues.
At the end of the day, it will affect the performance
Of
Precisely.
the organization.
Yes.
Employees and also
And
the
organization.
The organization.
Yes.
That's important for us to
Yep.
realize that. But again, we are not want to invalidating the person if they don't want to share. As mentioned by Parish, that we have to offer whether they want to take or not. That's up to them.
Yeah.
Avenue needs to be provided.
Correct.
Right. So I think there's a strong message to HR that you need to really look at the employees' financial well-being. But we need to take a break for a while, and we will be right back.
Let's go. Let's go.
Welcome back to the Insights brought to you by AKPK Financial Education and Wellbeing Research Center, FEWRC. We were talking about financial stress and mental health, and there is quite a good discussion, also a hot discussion about the messaging to the HR and what HR needs to be done. But maybe if I give one last question to Dr. Hazli, can money buy happiness?
Okay, you should ask me earlier in the beginning. You need a long time to answer that. Simple answer, yes, but there is a limit. But again, I want to ask the question: can happiness be bought? The happiness is something that we can buy.
Yes.
The answer, no. Happiness is not like car, like house. Yes, you have money, you can buy house, you will be happy, but not necessarily, right?
Yes.
Because to be happy or being happy, actually, what it is, it many factors that contribute to that. But having enough money, yes, to make us feel calm, at peace, that we can spend. But too much money also going to cause problem. Not enough money also. So knowing when is what enough is enough for us. Enough for us to spend, enough for us to save. And the rest, maybe we have to give.
Yeah.
That is the concept of sustainability. Use the resources how much that we really need. So it come back to know who we are, what our needs, what our luxury, and then don't being pressured by the environment. This is the skill to know who we are. It's something that we are lacking. And then knowing when to reach out. So that is responsibility of everybody to find the information, to increase the knowledge in their financial well-being, in mental well-being. And then there is the platform or environment to support that as well. That need to come from everybody, all the stakeholders, including the employer.
It's a concerted effort from everyone.
Everyone, also the head of the family, the father, the mother,
Right.
that we have to start a live for us to realize that happiness sometimes is just a marketing ploy. But the whole idea is to know what is enough for us, and then we will be able to live peacefully, calm. If happy all the time, that need to come to see me also.
I couldn't agree more. I mean,
Yeah.
going to what you have just mentioned, going back to the fundamental of the financial management itself. You know, you need to differentiate between wants and needs, manage it well, manage your cash flow, and don't be pressured by what happening around you. You know, looking at your affordability, spend within your means.
Spend with you.
Spend within
I
your means.
also want to introduce the concept of mental health bank also.
Mental health
Yeah,
bank.
they have to save also for their mental well-being.
Mm.
So sometimes they do not have enough, but they still want to spend.
Oh, that's a good
Concept, yeah?
concept.
That's,
I mean,
that's
you know,
what the insight is all about.
Yeah.
That's very good. This is actually the insights where, you know, when we talk about the savings, we always have, you know, financial goals like, okay, I want to buy a car, I want to buy a house, those financial goals. But I think we might need to add one more goal, which is we need to look at how we can put money in a pool of mental health bank. That's a very good suggestion, Dr. Azli. Very nice. So that is actually individuals what need to be done. I would like to go to Mr. Parish. Can money buy happiness, and what
Right.
employees need from their employers?
Right. I think like Dr. Azli had mentioned, you need a certain amount of money to cover your basic needs. Your commitments, basic. And you should, I like the word spend within your means. I think you mentioned that. We employees or we as human beings need to really know how to spend within our means. This is very important. Now, from the employer side, or what employees usually look forward to is perhaps some financial education, so that people are to be able to appreciate financial literacy. For example, on how to spend wisely, how to save for rainy days. Saving is a discipline. If you don't have that discipline, you will not be able to save. So sometimes forced savings is good. Right? Like EPF is good. It's automatically cuts from your basic. It goes straight to the EPF. So it's forced savings. If you can't save, give it to someone who can save it for you, your spouse or a good family member who's trustworthy. Otherwise, the saving might be gone also. So you need to have that. And then the other part is maybe perhaps employers can provide tools and features, for employees to be educated in terms of financial stress, how to manage financial stress, how to also budget for monthly expenses, and debt payments, how to structure your debt payments. I'm sure AKPK, will be instrumental in this, as well as contingency planning. Should someone hits the wall, what can they do? Refinancing, or open up the avenues of at least helping the employee. I think those are the things that I'm sure employees will appreciate. So those are some of the things. And another one, if I could just quickly say, also proactive and preventive wellness programs. Yeah. So if we don't just tackle the issue when a person hits the wall. Proactiveness before. Yeah. So before the person hits it, if we can have proactive ways of counseling, so the person can get out of that issue quickly. The sooner the better. Yeah. Otherwise, the hole will be too deep. It's not going to be easy for the person to get out of the hole. So that's one aspect of it. And then have channels open for employees to talk to professional, trained financial counselors and also professional wellness counselors. I think that is key as well.
Yes, yes. So yeah, thank you very much. Quite a number of lists of takeaways and insights that to given to perhaps employers out there, and also perhaps those related and relevant stakeholders or policy developers could look into this and force HR to really open their rooms for financial matters discussion. And I think it's a good combination where Dr. Azli's mentioned about the role of individual. You have to take care of yourself, right? So you need to know what to do. And in order for you to know what to do, employers also need to play their role in providing knowledge and education or even avenue to talk about this issues, right? So I think that will wrap up our discussion today. Thank you very much, Dr. Haziz Zakaria and also Mr. Parish. Thank you for joining us in the Insights, and thank you for watching the Insights, and until we meet again in the next episode, thank you very much. Assalamualaikum and bye-bye.